Welcome to another episode of HomeGrown the series. I'm your host, Emmanuel Davis. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with the Media Maven, Portia King. Portia, welcome to HomeGrown the series.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on this being your 12th episode. So that's a whole year. Congrats.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the words of affirmation you gave me last year about the show. So,
Yeah, and just do it.
exactly. But before I get into what the Media Maven actually means, I want to talk to P. Curry real quick.
All right, what's up?
Little do people know you used to hoop, and not just hoop, you were balling.
Yeah.
Was basketball your first love?
Yes. So growing up, my parents had us involved in every type of sport, activity, extracurriculars. So everything from dance to gymnastics. We played tennis growing up, swimming, softball, track and field, but basketball was the one that sort of stuck with us the most.
Okay.
So yeah, basketball was definitely very, very relevant and present in my upbringing. From hooping in the backyard, we broke the backboard. My dad built one out of wood.
Wow.
In the meantime, we played on crates in the alley, playing over speed bumps,
Yep.
all types of a really solid South Side
Ex-
childhood with hooping.
Exactly. Exactly. Now I was trying to find out your jersey number and some stats on you because I knew that you used to like play. You took it real seriously. But also
Mhm.
around that time, I think this is when you made your transition and stopped playing. I think you stopped playing sophomore, junior year of high school.
Yeah.
But also around that time,
Good
you
memory. Wow.
you took a trip to Africa, and that somewhat changed and blossomed the person that we see right here. Can you speak on that trip to Africa and what it meant to you?
Wow. Okay. So yes, to transition the response there. So I was hooping all the way up, like year round, all the way up until my sophomore year of high school. And I got this amazing opportunity through the Rainbow Push Coalition, the youth chapter, which was in partnership with the organization called African Connections. And they sponsored a free complimentary 2-week trip to Ghana, Africa for 5 inner city youth in Chicago. So luckily I was a finalist and I was selected to be one of those 5. And what happened? The trip would have been during the exact same time as the required training period for basketball.
Mhm.
And it overlapped and I had to choose. So of course I chose a free complimentary trip to Ghana.
Absolutely.
But then also there were other things that went into it. Freshman year, I got injured. I pulled
Mm.
like a muscle and behind my hip bone. So I was out for the entire season. I didn't come back
Uh,
until postseason. And a little bit, so sophomore year playing just wasn't as fun anymore because
mhm.
athletic injuries just change you a little bit. But junior year, I had to make that decision and went to Ghana. And that certainly changed my perspective on everything. Just it was my first time leaving the country, which was kind of like a big trip to be your first
Mhm.
time ever being like the farthest I've ever been away from home with my family, with my pets and friends. But it was an amazing experience. We traveled various cities across the country.
Mhm.
We were in a different city every other night. It was a small group, but we still had local citizens or leaders who were a part of our group exposing us to different things within their culture, leading very, very in-depth conversations. We watched all types of television,
Mhm.
films, and talked about how Americans are, or America is perceived from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
So being able to step outside of this sort of fishbowl that we live in, where you're basically being consumed by the products you consume. So basically, you're purchasing things that are consuming your thoughts, that are consuming your like passive thoughts, even. So how you
Mhm.
perceive everything around you, people around you, it invokes certain stereotypes. And from that trip, I was able to see how the media just constructs our entire reality. It constructs
Correct.
the economy. It constructs your perspective and the way you see everyone and everything around you, including yourself. So when I realized and got my aha moment somewhere in rural Ghana, that's when I fell in love with the media and realizing how powerful it really is and how it controls every single thing, no matter how big or small you think it
Correct.
might be in your life.
It's funny you say that because when I hear different people when I hear African Americans visit Ghana, visit Africa, they always say the same thing. Ryan Coogler, when he was on this press run with the Black Panther, he said they shot in Africa. I forgot which country they were shooting in, but he said I remember traveling with some of the villagers, and older woman was handing out watermelon because it's full of water. And when you're out in the fields all day, you need something to replenish you. And he said, well, back where I'm from, we get laughed at for eating watermelon. And then when he visited the village, he saw all the young people on a porch and just on the block, and she said that showed that your family was solid. That showed some kind of wealth, that some kind of presence. He said, in Oakland, we stand on the block all the time and we get harassed. So it's amazing how we share the same experiences. And once we go back to Africa, the stuff that we get talked about here is embraced.
Mm-hmm.
But you also came up with a quote, and you said, I wanted to be able to tell the stories worth telling or shaping perspective from a true and authentic place versus being told what's what and creating what is. And I
Ooh.
think that was such a powerful quote
Oh wow.
because we don't control the story.
Mm-hmm.
They want to, and I'm going to talk about Chicago stuff real quick. That young child was killed by a police officer weeks prior to that, when the footage was already released. Before the footage was released, they showed police in Little Village somewhat. They were passing out food and saying, oh, these are good cops, trying to somewhat block the blow that they were about to receive. So it's just amazing how the media can warp your perspective of our homes, of our
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods, of certain figures and pillars and institutions.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
was that the driving force why you went into PR in college?
So like the
Well,
media,
after college, I mean.
well, no, it's okay. But like the media, like it's so much deeper than
Hmm.
just like the content that's created. It goes back to like back when, like, as we look at the progression of media. So you look at, okay, or you look at the progression of mass media.
Hmm.
So the more technology develops and the more people are able to consume and the faster information travels, it's sort of like they're sort of losing the grip
Hmm.
on the type of content that sort of you're forced to consume versus
Correct.
people being able to curate their own pieces of content and what they want. Like, think about it, back when television first came about, Black people couldn't even play Black people on TV. So it's literally they were telling us and telling America what Black people looked like and what Black people
Hmm.
sounded like and how they talked. And those stigmas, like, stick are clearly still present 100 years later.
Correct.
And so to tie it into public relations, so when I first graduated, left Mizzou, came back to the city. I was not trying to stick around in small city. It was a city, but town to
Hmm.
me. But I came back to school and I got my first opportunity to work in media with Robin Beeman.
Hmm.
She owns Beeman Incorporated. And from there, I was able to really get a hold on like learning how to construct stories and
Okay.
really seeing the intertwined light on how public relations ties directly into media,
Correct.
because a subject or talent, if you have it, needs somebody who can make them sound cool, make them look a
Correct.
certain way, and get them
Correct.
access to the media. The media needs people and needs content that's going to attract their audience. So they really, really work hand in hand.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I really got my foot in the ground from that back door aspect of media and how it's created.
And we're going to talk about media this entire episode. I always wanted to know this, and because you're a professional, I wanted to ask you: is all press good press?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends on your intention. Like, do
Okay.
you want to be like what's your goal? If you
Okay.
just want to be relevant, then all press is great press. If
Okay.
you just want people to know your name and be familiar with your face or what you do, then okay, yeah, like it could be, you could put anything out. Oh,
Yeah.
that's that guy who did that thing, who hurt so and so and look crazy. Oh, okay, yeah, I know who
Mhm.
that is. If that's your goal. But if your goal is to come off as somebody more pristine, somebody
Mhm.
more clean cut, I think that, like I said, with this evolution of media and the pace that people are consuming it and finding it and even creating it, it's almost, once you reach a certain level, it's almost harder to keep that clean image.
We
It
have
almost
some
becomes
figures
harder.
that, well, I always think of JayZ and Kanye, and not necessarily to put them together,
Mhm.
but one has a more of a cerebral approach to what gets out. Even though JayZ had the incident in the elevator, all three parties released some of their best work versus Kanye, who is a genius. He gets all he had those couple of years where the paparazzi was just irritating him and he lost control a little bit.
Mhm.
So I think you can have a more chill approach to it. Like, you're still a human at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So does that content creator, he hires people like you, they hire people like you to somewhat control or guide that narrative?
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that would say that's the goal. You want to be able to control your narrative
Okay.
as best you can. And
Okay.
sometimes when incidences happen, so like the incident in the elevator,
Hmm.
thank God there was no audio. Like, thank God
True.
there was no audio. So therefore, you were able to get ahead of it because you know there was nothing else that could come of it beyond
Yes.
just this visual you're seeing. So
Yes.
therefore, you were literally able to control the narrative behind it and respond in whichever way you want or don't respond. But that's when you get to different. If you're playing with the celebrities, if you're comparing
Yeah.
JayZ to Kanye,
Yeah.
Kanye has less of a filter.
Correct.
Like he
Correct.
will go on Twitter rants and say every single thought that comes to his head.
Hmm.
JayZ wouldn't. But
Yeah.
then we also want to talk about conflict responses. So PR coming in. So like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, that incident on the elevator looked bad, but they got ahead of it and they're still doing fine. Their what is it? Their narrative is just fine.
Correct.
But then you brought up the incident with the CPD and how they killed that child.
Hmm.
But weeks before to get ahead of it, they tried to like set up nice
Soften.
propaganda
Yeah.
um, activities of the police officers doing good things in the community.
Yeah.
But does that outweigh the incident?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. So it's to each his own. So when you
Yeah.
ask the question, is all press good press? All press will get you known, but it's just based on whether or not you want that type of recognition,
That's
depending on
true.
what it is.
That's true. I can go on and on about celebrities and how they have handled situations, from the little mamas to the sweeties and Quavo. But I said all of that to say, and I loved your response. It sounded like you had training. Was that you being an event coordinator, a content creator for Revolt, but you created this thing called the Maven Method? Was there a single moment that made you create there, or was it just, I want to take care of our people. I don't want our chief keeps of the world to be going to interviews on a Breakfast Club, giving, how old are you? I'm 300. Cool answer because we get it,
Mhm.
but for your brand, you need
Mhm.
to say more.
Yeah, if you want to reach a certain point.
Correct.
So yes, I created the Maven Method, media training for artists and talent. And I would say I did have an aha
Okay.
moment.
Can you share it?
So yeah, I won't
Okay.
say no names, but yeah, I'll
Okay.
share it.
Okay.
Um, but let's see. So I came out of school. I got this amazing internship with this amazing PR firm. And then 6 months later, I ended up getting this amazing opportunity to be the producer and writer for Revolt in Chicago.
Yeah.
So given my like true insight, and it was a small, intimate PR firm. So
Hmm.
it was maybe at most five of us working on and running national campaigns, which was a very, very, very um, sort of process.
Okay.
So it wasn't a, okay, Portia, yeah, just hit send on these emails and send it out. It was like, no, Portia, can you draft up this press release?
Hmm.
Or let's bring Portia into these brainstorming sessions for different ideas of how we can position certain people. Or can you
Yeah.
do the research and pull the names of these editors and research their stories and actually reach out to them and build
Yeah.
up that relationship? So I was able to gain such a unique and deep understanding of how PR works
Mm-hmm.
and why media needs publicists, why talent need publicists, and how the publicist really is that medium role between both parties.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started working with Revolt, that's when I really started to get my feet wet as far as conducting interviews and becoming the media. So
Mm.
now I would literally be sitting at my internship, which eventually turned into sort of a full-time gig as the PR coordinator.
Yeah.
But I would have like both emails open. Like I would have my work email where I'm sending out pitches and pitching people. Then I have my other email where I'm receiving pitches
Mm-hmm.
from other publicists for me to come out and cover their event or interview their artists or their client. So it was really interesting seeing both sides. So I might go out to certain events and now here I am, media, dealing with the publicist as far as like, okay, well, we're going to be backstage or here's the green room. Okay, are you fine? And they're checking in on you. But then I would be dealing with some publicists who are just, sorry, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is not professional at all. Like for my PR gig, I know how you're supposed to treat media.
Yeah.
I know how critical that is. I know how much you need your client to look good. And so I was able to see both sides of them and how they collapse. So that was a very interesting, like 3 years of balancing both worlds. But I was able to get a hold of it. And to answer your question, the aha moment was I knew I wanted to start my own web series. So I knew I wanted to start creating my own content and
Yeah.
being like 100%, having 100% creative control around it.
Controlling the narrative.
Exactly. So I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to do that. But then also looking at things from like looking towards towards the future, I also sort of knew like, okay, well, how lucrative is that going to be?
Yeah.
Is there going to be is that going to cost me money? So
Yeah.
for instance, if I go out to a shoot, okay, I have to get my makeup done, have my hair done, pay a cameraman, pay
Mm-hmm.
someone to edit it, and then post it. So it's just that I knew that down the line that would cost more money. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking of, well, how can I make money off of media? How can I actually build up a business and build up financial gain with media? And something totally creative out the woodworks outside of just doing this, or something outside of being boxed into like a certain specific role within
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
So I was doing an interview with an artist
Mm-hmm.
and this is years ago. And this was my aha moment. They were going sort of on a tangent about their experience with fans who did not like them. So
So
they
those
were
were fans then.
right. But they were sort of these like little hate groups against this artist, you could say.
Okay.
Um, or I would say people who didn't approve of this person. So
Okay.
they would like harass him, put certain things out on the internet that were degrading to his brand and like very offensive things actually. But he chose to respond by saying some very degrading things, very offensive things, and even physically reenacting, displaying different things that would be highly offensive to multiple groups and
Mm-hmm.
potentially like you would lose fans
Yeah.
if we put this out. Um, so me being like having the morale that I do, when we went to edit it, I just told them like, yeah, don't put that part in there.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be, yeah, like that's not a good look for him. I don't know why he would say that or do that on camera. When and then you would just back up exact everything that this group of people is saying about you.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting look. But at that moment, I thought like, why don't you know this? You should know this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was sort of the PR person in me, like, you should know not to say that or do that
Correct.
on camera.
Correct.
Like, you should know these things. You should know that you're gonna potentially offend somebody who does support you and does
Absolutely.
love you and is a fanatic about you. And if we were to put if we wanted views, we could have put that in there.
Absolutely.
Like so and so goes off on this, and you could have been canceled, essentially. So there was that moment followed by other moments with various interviews of people who were just uncomfortable, very shy, didn't necessarily have their answers together,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any type of etiquette. So during interviews, they're just on their phone, looking at their phone, tweeting, doing things, not paying attention, not engaged.
Just
And those
uninterested.
interviews, yeah, and those interviews just make it hard as an interviewer.
Yeah.
Like it makes it difficult. It makes it, well, I have to get this content and you're making it hard. I can't pull anything from these 3-word answers that you're giving me.
This is my job
Exactly.
and I have expectations. I have
Hmm.
things that I have to take care of. And how are you doing?
Quiet.
Well, I'm fine.
So how'd you get in music? I heard some beats. I loved it. And I could rap. And it's like, all right. But then on the other
Yeah,
note,
exactly.
on the other note, the other PR side of me was looking at certain situations as far as, okay, so if I'm a publicist, if I'm your publicist and I got you
Yeah.
this interview, and it's my job to make you look good. It's
Hmm.
my job to make sure you're killing these interview opportunities, make sure that your brand is growing, your audience is growing, and that you're reaching people and turning strangers into fans. And then you come in and do that, or you come in and act like this, then that's also not a good look. And it would make the publicist job even harder.
And make the firm look bad too.
Yeah.
'Cause this
Yeah,
is your
it could.
client. You're representing
Mhm.
them. And
Yeah, because
clearly they don't care about the opportunities that they've been given.
and your team, your manager, we've seen countless artists lose amazing endorsement deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it kicked off of several shows because
Yeah.
of choices and decisions they made outside of
Ar-
interviews, but
yeah.
just
Artists were right at the precipice, got commercials with double mint and just
McDonald's, like those big deals, Nike,
correct.
huge deals,
Correct.
just blown
Yep.
because
Yep.
either one, you did something crazy and you did
Hmm.
not have the right response to it,
Yeah.
or you were in an interview and just said something terrible.
Correct.
And a lot of this
And
stuff can be translated to just social media, like just posting things, sharing, oversharing.
but it's my page. Yes, but you have a responsibility with your page.
Mhm.
Like, I love Summer Walker, and I love that she has 2 Instagram pages. She
Oh, I
has
didn't
the
know that.
Summer Walker page that's dedicated to the artist. And then she has, I think it's called Galactic Whore or something, where she
Mm.
posts whatever she wants.
Oh,
And you can check her page out and you can let me know, like, oh,
mhm.
okay. I wouldn't have said that on my main page. I got the backup. Now I can do what I want.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example of people not treating themselves necessarily as a brand and knowing that you're a brand. So
Yeah,
she found a way to separate her brand from her personal
correct.
being.
Correct.
So that's dope.
I don't want to gloss over your time at Revolt because I've seen a bunch of the interviews that you did,
Thank
and
you.
you interviewed the late great John Singleton. When they first introduced Snowfall, can you talk about your time at Revolt and getting those interviews with some of the greats?
Yeah, so John Singleton was with Maven Muse with Snowfall. But
Oh,
yeah.
my
Oh, no, it's
apologies.
okay. It's okay. But still nonetheless, like Revolt 3-4 years working and like being able to like have that brand, a name, like
Hmm.
walking into different venues and getting access to different artists was
Yeah.
amazing. So like it originally started off where we would sort of get an assignment.
Hmm.
So it was literally me, shout out to Julian Ross and Emmanuel Camacho, Manny. So it was the 3 of us, and we would just run around the city grabbing content. And it started off originally where we would get an assignment from New York that would just be, okay, hey, we got so and so's having a show this day. You're already in. Just show up, do the interview, and
Yeah.
send us the footage back. But eventually, or as we continue to work together and continue to build up a rapport within the city and within the industry, it changed to where I could create a calendar. I'll know what shows are coming up. I'll send it to you. Which one do you want? And the
Hmm.
PR in me would just, or the hustle would be in me would just be like, okay, we would show, like, as long as I was able to get in the venue, like if we could
Yeah.
get in the door,
Yeah.
and not even have access to the artist, but just call. I knew people at the venues, like call them up. As long as we could get in the door, just tell the Manny or Julian, whichever one was shooting, like, okay, go get the B-roll. I'll call you when we're backstage. And that is literally how it worked. You just learned how to work a room, or learned how to get in the room, or learned how to see who's who without talking to anybody. Like, okay, who's the person actually making the calls here?
Yeah.
Who's the person I need to speak with?
Yeah.
And you get with them. I'm a people person. Most of them are people. And they would love to get the interview. But we were able to do that. We were able to finesse heavily. And then some things were a shoe-in. But yeah, we were able to get some interviews with, like you said, some very iconic people. One of the most interesting was Most Def. Yeah, he originally said no.
Okay.
But we were out in the hallway. We still had our cameras up. We had put the mic and everything up. And he's walking out and in a doorway. Like, we're standing in a doorway. He's walking past us. And said to him, like, yo, so you sure you don't want to do this interview? He's all right, what's up? What you want to know? And we did an interview in a doorway. So like that was interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, all sorts of legends. I'm trying to
You
think
did
like the
you did
cast
an East Side legend. You got an interview with Bump J.
Yes,
And
that was when we first got released.
I'm like, that man don't talk to nobody, and Portia got an interview with him. Oh
yeah, that was actually fun. It was he just got released, and they were throwing a celebration for him, but then also shooting a music video. But it was an all white party, so we had to show up in all white, and yeah, we got the interview. We got the interview with him. Another hometown legend.
Correct.
Yeah, but everyone from Barbershop 3, when they did their tour Media Run, that was a finesse. Ooh, that was a strong finesse, but we got in there so that we got to interview that entire cast. Yeah, just a variety of people, not to mention all the festivals, so music festivals, which were like marathons. You got Lala, Pitchfork, Riot Festival. There's another one I'm thinking of, but yeah, we were out here. We were out here finding content and creating stories.
You were talking about brands and controlling the narrative. How important is your name?
Oh, your name is everything.
Okay.
I don't know if it went through, but your name is everything. Literally. I mean, it's your brand, it's your forefront. It's what people know before they know you.
So I know when you first started, you used Miss King briefly, but you changed it to Portia King. I know that sometimes we all can't be Titty Boy and turn into 2 Chainz. And I know that Terrence J, he told a story that his real name is Terrence Jenkins, but because of that perception of Jenkins, oh, that's a black last name, so that may prevent him from getting into certain venues, he went by Terrence J. Can you speak to why you wanted to change the name to Portia King, and why is it like that Terrence Jenkins can't use Terrence J? Sounds good, but why would a person do that?
I mean, well, that reminds me of also Jamie Foxx. It's not his real name.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, I didn't know about Whoopi. Didn't know that. But he said, Jamie Foxx said changed his name to Jamie, which is neutral, because they usually, if they thought it was a woman, they usually would put him ahead of other comedians, just so he can make people get the harder laughs, and everybody else kind of looks bad. But for me, Miss King,
I said that was strategic.
Yeah,
strategy.
But when I came out, I thought my name was like, okay, Portia King, that's unique. But let's go with Miss King. That's kind of like, it's feminine for the Miss, but then King is like masculine. So
it's
I'm gonna
regal.
do Miss. Yeah, so I'm like Miss King. And I spelled it MISS. But like I said, when I started getting into the mindset of like, okay, let me make this something. Let me make a career out of this. So like when I was with Color Me TV, shout out to Sid, Miss King was the name. My first real Miss King was the name. And then when I started really thinking about like, okay, I want to do media training.
Okay.
But I need to build up my identify a solid brand.
Okay.
to build up credibility. So that's where Maven Muse came from. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people knew Revolt, but like my face wasn't necessarily on it. My name was on the articles and my name was on the credit, but
Yeah.
like they didn't know my face or who I was. So that needed to contribute to the brand, and then also showcase that I can create content on my own. So I know this. I know how to do this. So that led into the credibility for the Maven Method media training sessions. And when I started thinking about other names, I was like, well, Miss King, throughout the time that I was using that name, I would often see people message me or people refer to me as Miss, so like MS period King.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people would Mrs. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
like the Ms. MZ King, or all these different types of ways people were referencing the
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
And then I did a quick Google search. And I was also looking to purchase my domain for my website.
Yeah.
I did a quick Google search. So I typed in Miss King, the way I spell it. And yeah, like some porn stars popped up.
Oh,
It was a variety of,
and you said that was Miss King. You searched.
yeah,
You
Miss
searched.
King.
Okay.
There was a variety of people popping up under this alias.
Yeah.
So then I Googled my name and I popped up. My interviews popped up. My
Yeah.
photos
Yeah.
showed up. Even
Yeah.
all like from college, different things that I'd done and published showed
Yeah.
up in that Google search. And then
Yeah.
also PortiaKing.com was available. So if anybody's gonna own that, it should be me.
It should be me.
So
Absolutely.
that's how I decided to transition to actually using my actual name. And then also it's unique. A lot of people don't spell their name the way I do,
Yeah.
let alone with the last name King. So
Correct.
that's how you got
Correct.
Porsche King Media from Miss King 21.
Sounds like an old email address when you used to use
Yeah.
Hotmail.
I made it
Yeah.
when I was 21. Yeah, that's when I got my Instagram account.
Oh, okay.
Now that I think about it.
Okay. But so with like Terrence J, do you think that was helpful for him? If people really knew that, so I don't know how widely known that is, but do you think that like Jamie Foxx, I get that, but Terrence J, if he would have went by Terrence Jenkins, would he be where he is now at the level that he is now?
Um, I think he would, just based off of his talent alone.
Okay.
I think Terrence J adds a bit more clarity because
Okay.
there's probably a bunch of Jenkins. Like if I'm looking at his brand, probably a
Yeah.
ton of people named Jenkins.
Yeah.
But it sort of just defines him as like just Terrence J. And then it also adds a bit of a distance between him and his government.
Okay.
Like so,
Okay.
like for me, I'm Porsche King. That's it.
Yeah.
Say yeah, like my whole shebang. But with him, it's just Terrence J.
Yeah.
And the J can stand for any Jacobs. It could stand for Julio. I don't know. It could stand
Julio.
for
Terrence
anything.
Julio. Yeah.
Julio. But it could stand for anything. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that him making it just shortened and hyphenated was more catchy,
Okay.
probably. And then also, unless he was looking at it from the perspective of, we know Jenkins to be a Black name, and maybe unless he didn't want to be labeled and or prejudged to just be
Correct.
a certain type of way based on stereotypes that have already been
Mm-hmm.
presented.
Yeah.
So unless that was it, but I like Terrence J.
It
It
fits.
works.
It fits.
It almost makes me wonder, could I have been Porsche K? I don't know.
I mean, we can Miss King, Portia King. That's the natural progression,
And see,
right?
but Porsche K would have been too much of a jump from Miss King to Porsche K.
Okay. We
Yeah,
all can't be Diddy and have 5
multiple.
different names.
Not at all.
Well, speaking of brands, you definitely don't just stay in the box.
Mm-hmm.
You've been shown, you were a guest on The Jam, you've appeared on multiple panel discussions, you had a podcast, which is a great name. And I wish I would have came up with it.
I did.
From Mild Sauce Radio, you had a podcast called Three Piece.
Mm-hmm.
That means something.
Extra sauce.
Were you just trying to get your feet wet in these different mediums, or was there one be like, all right, at the end of the day, I can see myself in front of the camera speaking, being on the news, or being like Brittany, what is it, Walter Payton, Brittany Payton, doing the stuff with WGN? Where do you see, like, you were trying to find something? Did you find it?
Um, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily trying to find anything,
Okay.
but I just want to experience everything. So, like
Okay.
I said, one of my main things, even back to school, was like, what do you want to do specifically? And I
Okay.
feel like a lot of times people say, well, no, if you're, what's the saying? If you are a something of many, you're a master of
A
none.
jack of trade, you will be a master of none.
Yeah, jack of trade, you're a master of none.
Yeah.
So for me, I just couldn't necessarily put myself wholeheartedly into one specific box of anything.
Okay. Okay.
So I was always open to just like, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna do radio. Let's see, I'm getting my feet wet with PR.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm gonna do some producing. Then I'm gonna write a little bit. But then I'm also gonna be a host. And then
Yeah.
I'm also gonna be a moderator. But then I
Yeah.
also want to do all these different things. So I never really found one true love outside of the realm of media. It's so massive.
And may I say,
Mhm.
you've done well. I don't think that saying applies to you, because when you hear the feedback from these panel discussions, when you listen to the podcast, when you see your interviews, when you saw that when you appeared on the Jam, you looked comfortable.
Oh,
And it
thank you.
feels like you're one of those special people that you put them in any situation and they can shine and make the most out of it. And that's going to lead me to confidence.
Hmm.
You told me when I first started that you have to have confidence. Do you attribute that, your confidence, into why you are successful and why you can go into these different arenas and be successful?
Yeah, but I think that confidence is the epitome of being comfortable with yourself.
Okay.
So I think that in order to be confident in any way, you have to be comfortable first, like comfortable and firm in who you are. So
Yeah.
for me, I also did theater growing up, but I was on the improv
Every,
team.
everything. Everything.
Yeah, but I was on the Mizzou MU improv team in college, and one of the biggest lessons in that was just say yes. So it was like in improv, as soon as you step on stage, almost if somebody labels you as a character, you're gonna be that.
Yeah.
So it's just it's ownership, like just owning everything you are in that moment and going with it. So being comfortable is about being flexible,
Yeah.
like just not being so stern and caught up in the way things are supposed to be or the way things are supposed to go. So
Hmm.
whether I'm hosting a live event, whether I'm hosting a concert, on a panel, moderating something, or doing a television appearance, it's just finding comfortability in being yourself and just hoping that everything goes well and wishing for the best.
Yes. And that confidence shows in one of your favorite Maya Angelou quotes.
Mhm.
Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. You said, I promise no one does media training like me. Right.
Right. Nobody. No
Right.
one.
And it shows. I've been in one of your training classes, and you're hitting things. You're like, wow, you got to do it like this and sit up. You talk about the etiquette stuff that you feel that these artists should know or someone on their team should tell them, but they don't. So I feel like what you're doing is super important. But
Thank
you
you.
also, when you're not doing media training, you've left a positive footprint in your community. Last year in 2020, we had a lot of rioting, we had a lot of more police brutality, but on social media, you were focused on being a, what do I want to say? Serving your community. You were
Being an
on
advocate. Let's give it
being an
that.
advocate, being an advocate.
Mhm.
Um, can you speak to the importance of that and what that meant to you?
Yes. So the main thing with the when the rioting and the looting happened, the main thing was just the aftermath of it. And looking at places that were once food deserts or were never food deserts after a certain point were.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were somebody who lived on 83rd and Cottage Grove, or if you lived on 76th and Langley, you
Mm-hmm.
relied on various locations and various grocery stores or drugstores to get your essential items,
Yeah.
such as like milk, toiletries,
Prescription.
bread, all of these things. And
Yeah.
it's just the aftermath of everything. It sort of wiped out the necessary, or it wiped out the access that certain people had who relied on public transportation or
Yes.
relied on those very local neighborhood shops.
Yes.
So Romello, he had posted that he was going to be passing out free food and free lunches over on in South Shore on maybe like 71st and Jeffrey, right off of Jeffrey.
Yep.
So I thought that was an amazing idea. I thought it was an amazing idea. So like I think the first day after the looting everything, we went out and cleaned up. But that's when you really saw like being on the ground and being able to really see the true impact of the longevity of the situation that we were going to be dealing with within our local
Mm-hmm.
communities was people
Mm-hmm.
not having access to these essential things. So Romello's idea and his connection to passing out free food,
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the name of the organization he partnered with who was providing the free meals, but shout out to them.
Yeah.
So the first day I went over to South Shore and Romello, we talked that night at like 8 p.m. And I said, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever organization you have, because they're delivering pre-made sandwiches, water bottles, chips, fruit, all types of stuff. They're delivering these things and just dropping them off in crates. I
Yeah.
said, well, if it's possible, let's hit more communities. Like South Shore wasn't the only community hit, the only community
Correct.
in need.
Correct.
So he made some calls and put me in touch with my homie Heavy at the Trap House, who just recently opened on 79th and Cottage.
Mm-hmm.
So we set up shop there, and we just set up like 2 days a week, passing out free meals, and it grew. Like social media spread like wildfire. Multiple organizations started coming and pouring in and just dropping off utensils. Volunteers showing up out of the woodworks, people just pulling up, stopping traffic to
Yeah.
drop off 20 cases of water.
Yeah.
Types of community love and support. We were passing
Correct.
out gallons of milk, like
Yeah.
things that would like probably expire, like would definitely expire. We had diapers, wipes, feminine products. It was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So that was a really, really, really amazing thing to have been able to be a part of and witness.
And you also, before Lori did it, you were on 75th Street at those black owned, championing those black owned restaurants all up and
Yes.
down 75th Street.
Hmm.
And I grew up over there. It's definitely changing and it's beautiful just seeing all these black businesses flourishing. Can
Hmm.
you speak to your love of 79th and just being an advocate for these black owned restaurants?
Yes. So I love the South Side. I'm a South Side baby. And I think it's just such a it's something beautiful that really happens
Mm-hmm.
when you get to experience the good. And so I hosted a Mary Maven holiday for the first time this year. And shout out to my friend Andrea. She's the one who put the idea in my head. Like, you should do a holiday thing or Mary Maven holiday. It just sounds cute.
It does.
So I hosted a week of activities, and one of them was dedicated to supporting Black business. So I put out a list of all of my favorite businesses. It took up like 10 slides on Instagram. So highlighted various clothing companies, food, hair, makeup, beauty, even publicity and media outlets and writers. So just different ways that you can support Black owned companies and businesses. But also on that day in particular, I posted up and set up shop at Brown Sugar Bakery on 75th Street. Love them. Can't
Love
eat every
them.
day, but I would if I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I was giving away free cupcakes to anybody who showed up.
That stuff is needed.
Yes.
That stuff is very needed. And that's thank you. Because that stuff is just it's refreshing to hear our generation. They paint us as something, but we're really not. We have people like you that are actually putting feet to pavement, making a change in the communities that they grew up in. But you also are planting seeds as well you're an instructor for Truestar Foundation.
Yes, yes. I just started working with them almost at the top of the pandemic.
Okay.
I believe last January I began working with them. So yeah, I am an instructor for their super team and their marketing team.
Okay. So what's a regular what's a typical day for you there?
Let's see. So like right now, so let's see. So for the super team, which is a collective of Chicago's finest high schoolers and young adults who really, really are interested in media
Okay.
and interested in creating content or
Okay.
marketing or doing some type of creative concept. So once a week, we host pitch meetings. So the students right now are responsible for creating a majority of the content that you see on their Instagram page.
Okay.
So we'll host pitch meetings every Monday where I guess I'm kind of like the lead on it. And we have a couple other instructors, so like Miss Marty or Henry who join in, and the students pitch ideas for the week. And what I think is that it really reinforces people or just students to like get outside of their personal world. So just step outside of their realm of what's happening and come up with cool ideas that are relatable to other people or
Yeah.
bringing certain instances to light that you won't get off watching Real Housewives, or you won't get off of just strolling on social media. Not strolling on social media, but like from different shoe blogs, like
Yeah.
highlighting different things in the community that actually matter or that are talkative. Like, yeah, we have fun. We create fun content too, but the key
Okay.
is to just be aware. And wow, now that I'm thinking about this and I'm talking it through, I think this is really like hones into when I first got back from Ghana. When I was went there for 2 weeks, it was just in the middle
Mhm.
of the school year. This wasn't over any vacation or break. I was gone like the first 2 weeks, or no, the last 2 weeks in October into November, just for two
Mhm.
weeks, gone. So when I came back, I was very quiet in a
Okay.
way. I just remember being in class, just I don't even know how to put it, just very to myself because everything that people were talking about around me just didn't feel relevant.
Mm.
Like being at lunch, sitting in class. Okay, so we're learning about Pythagorean theorem. Okay. Okay, the Flavor of Love
Mhm.
finale just happened. Okay. These new mics just came out. All right. None of this stuff matters. So I think that when you live and when you, especially when you're young, when you live in this bubble of only caring and consuming about what's popular, you almost it's kind of hard to decipher what really matters. So one thing I guess that's what with True Star with these pitch meetings is like you can't rely on the media in a way to give you everything you need to know. So
Absolutely.
you have to create what you want people to know. So yeah, that's a typical day. And then editing content when it comes in.
Yeah, right. Um, that's needed, and that is something that I'm happy to hear because when you said your parents put you in these different sports programs and had you just being active and outside, that opens your eyes and exposes you to different things.
Mhm.
When we were younger, they had more programs like that. They were free. You could drop your kid off in the summer, and we would learn about this, learn about archery, learn about watercolor painting, be in Hyde Park doing activities. And the fact that it's a couple, those programs are starting to come back
Mhm.
and they're ran by Black people, Black
Mhm.
women from the neighborhoods. That means so much. And what does I'm I feel some kind of way about using this term, but you're not an influencer. You're more so an impactor. Like
Okay.
you're making a positive change in the community with what you're doing and with your brand as a whole. So what I know you say you don't like the box to be put in a box, but what is the goal? What is the finish line?
Ooh, what is the finish line? Hmm, the finish line. Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a second with this one.
Well, I'll ask you another question. I know that while you're thinking about that one, I know that the pandemic hit everybody, and I know you had you had you were thinking about expanding,
Mhm.
but then the pandemic happened. Now we're at a time where where restrictions are getting looser. Are you going to follow up with those plans that were derailed last year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So with the pandemic, so last year, my goal was for 2022 expand with the Maven Method and to reach new markets. And
Okay.
Atlanta was first and is first on my list outside of Chicago. So now that you said restrictions are lifting, people are getting vaccinated and they're becoming much more comfortable with being around other people or
Hmm.
feeling more safe with that. I am planning to host my first session of the Maven Method in Atlanta. Hopefully this summer. This summer is my goal, but to host at least one session
Okay.
in person with, and hopefully just get in touch with some amazing people who work with and have reached to reach some amazing artists and talent. So actors, athletes who could really just use a spruce up on their branding and
Hmm.
media makeup.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just being in that training class, you that stuff follows you, like being on time, being punctual, being attentive, learning, knowing that this is an opportunity now. Not only am I doing a job, but you're doing a job. Learning the rules, FDC, I believe I said that right.
FCC.
FCC, FCC, and what they do and how Cardi and Meg performing WAP on the Grammys gave them a nightmare. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and I'm glad that you decided to create this path and you're staying on it and it's needed. People need trainers like you. People need coaches like you to somewhat control their narrative.
Because if you don't control your narrative, then someone else will.
Absolutely. And I'd rather Porsche King, Porsche K control the narrative
Maybe.
for you. Um, was there anything else that you needed to share, or did you think of the answer for that
um,
question?
well, I would say my end goal right now, well, my end goal for everything is to just end up happy and whatever happiness looks like,
Okay.
while also having residual income and not being required to work. But my end goal would be to really help people, really
Okay.
help talent build and elevate their brands beyond what they're currently settling for,
Okay.
or building and being able to expand on outside of their comfort zones. Like, okay, yes, you can go and do interviews with audiences and markets who specifically reach your demographic, or you could grow
Yeah.
and reach new
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
tell your story without, I don't know, the blogs doing it.
Yeah.
Tell your story outside of just what you post on social media and be able to tell it like make it a good story.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Portia, I enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad we were able to have you think about the past and how that somewhat shaped you into the woman that you are today. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the community. I love your shirt.
Oh,
I,
thank
I
you. Yeah.
can't, I can't, I have to acknowledge your shirt.
Yes, absolutely. Murder must stop.
Absolutely. Shout out to Trap House. Portia,
Yes.
thank you for sharing those stories. That's been another episode of Homegrown the series. I'm your host, Emmanuel Davis. Thanks for watching. Peace.